Thank you everyone for joining today. My name is Matt Lahr. I'm with the City of Austin's Office of Homeland Security and Emergency Management, and I'll be moderating today's press conference. Today I'm joined by Travis County Judge Andy Brown, City of Austin Mayor Steve Adler, Austin Energy General Manager Jacqueline Sargent, and City of Austin City Manager Spencer Cronk. We will begin with some opening comments and then have our pool reporter from Austin American Statesman ask questions submitted by the media. With that, I'll hand it over to Travis County Judge Andy Brown.
Thank you. So I know the last few days have been really difficult for a lot of people in Austin and Travis County. Like many of you, I've been without power at my home for going on 2 days now. I think it's about 38 hours if my math is correct. Unfortunately, the state hasn't told us when the electric grid will be back to normal. And I agree that this is a completely unacceptable response. And frankly, we also need to figure out how to do rolling blackouts that don't just keep, a certain part of the population without energy for such a long period of time. But for now, we need to do what we can to deal with the problem that we have going on. So first and foremost, if you can, stay at home. Don't travel on roads, especially at night. The roads get really, really icy, especially as the sun goes down. If it's unsafe for you to stay where you are at your home, travel to your destination really slowly. Just do it with extreme caution. As I drove up to the EOC earlier today, I think I drove about 10 or 15 miles an hour the whole way. It's very dangerous out there, and it's getting more icy as the sun goes down. If you are also out trying to get supplies, or if you're trying to get a hotel room maybe, please keep an eye out for price gouging. And to help prevent price gouging, I'm announcing now that I'm actually signing an order this afternoon that prevents anyone from selling certain goods or services for more than their regular retail price, including hotel rooms. And if you happen to see evidence of price gouging going on in Austin or Travis County or anywhere in Texas, I would encourage you to document it and then report it immediately to the Office of the Attorney General. This order also says that local businesses like office towers or sports facilities need to turn off their exterior lights and quit using electricity if those lights or functions aren't related to essential services. But overall, just know, it's been very hard these last few days. I completely understand that. But we're going to get through this together, and, do what you can, stay safe, stay warm, and we'll get through this together. I'm going to pass it now over to Mayor Adler. Thank you very much.
Judge, thank you. We want to thank our community for everything that the community is doing to deal with this challenge, everything you've been doing to help one another. We know this is a critical weather event that's impacted all of us in different ways in one way or another. The forecast for tonight calls for additional severe weather, and we're urging residents to remain at home as much as possible during these severe weather to keep the roadways cleared for first responders and those that are seeking shelter. Please only call 911 if you have a life-threatening emergency so those that do can get through. As we have seen over the last couple of days, temperatures continue to be below freezing. And we do not anticipate that condition is going to change anytime soon. We're doing everything we can to keep the community as safe as possible while staying warm. So this afternoon, we're going to provide a few updates and make a few asks. If you can shelter in place, we're asking that you do so. If you can't, then we ask that you make that decision now and start getting to a place before it gets to be dark, because driving and walking become more dangerous in the evening when there's no light. For those that have power and water, please check on your neighbors or your friends. If you can provide shelter to them, we ask that you practice the following: wear your masks, wash your hands, try to maintain social distancing. Everyone, please do what you can to reduce your energy consumption. And this includes our businesses. As Judge Brown just talked about, we are putting out an urgent plea to businesses to reduce their power consumption, just as we're asking people in residences. Here's the key phrase for me this afternoon. If you have power, please try to live almost like you don't. If you have heat, run it low, run it lower. If you have lights, try just to use the light you need at that moment. If you have power, maybe you'll take a turn using flashlights or a candle. The more we can conserve, the greater the chance that Austin Energy might be able to satisfy whatever load reduction the state is requiring in an increasing way with conservation rather than with outages. And there are no promises because we can't control the state or ERCOT or what it's going to require of us. But it may very well give Austin Energy increased flexibility. Any measure that can be taken by homes with power or commercial businesses to reduce their power usage could be a step closer to returning power to homes in our community. Turn off the lights you can, lower the thermostat, lower. We need everyone to help conserve energy. I want to thank everybody in the community for your offers of aid. The harsh weather conditions are creating unprecedented need for shelter and food and clothing and other essentials in our community. Community groups are mobilizing to support this effort. Again, I refer you to the Austin Area Urban League, AAUL.org. They've launched an emergency donation drive called hashtag Love Thy Neighbor TX campaign. They're accepting monetary donations. I know that the Emergency Operating Command and APH are developing a website for volunteers to be able to sign up for helping to staff shelters, and I hope that that's available here shortly. Folks with four-wheel drives that are able to move people around, there's going to be an opportunity for you to be able to volunteer those services too. With so many cold and without power, people in danger, and everybody is frustrated, including everybody on this press conference, including me. The Electric Reliability Council of Texas, ERCOT, ultimately has to explain how millions of Texans are without power. Rolling outages are just not that. There's got to be systemic changes. This condition is happening every 10 years, and we've got to come up with a better plan. But for now, let's focus on the immediate emergency and challenge in front of us. I heard rumors this afternoon questioning whether or not we would, the situation at this point was endangering our water supply, whether we'd be facing a water boil. I checked with Austin Energy. They said that's not the case. That's happening elsewhere in Texas, but not here. And now I want to turn it over to Jackie Sargent, the Austin Energy General Manager.
Thank you, Mayor Adler. Good afternoon. As the General Manager for Austin Energy, I want to speak to our customers. We hear you. We know that this situation is challenging and is creating life and safety issues, especially for those of you experiencing prolonged and sustained outages. We are working in concert and under the direction of ERCOT to support and maintain the stability of the electric grid. If the electric grid becomes compromised, the issue will become even more dire. So until this weather event clears and more generating units across the state are able to come online, there will not be enough capacity to meet all energy customer demand. ERCOT has indicated that this energy emergency will continue until the grid is stabilized and there is more generating capacity available to meet our statewide customer demand. Right now, and today and over the night, we've been working around the clock. We have reached out and been working with our large customers to get them to power down their facilities and start their backup generation. ERCOT conditions have improved somewhat during the day, going up and then back down. However, the combination of these two factors is allowing us to start restoring some of our customers' service. We have to do this work very deliberately and in a measured fashion to restore circuits to energize customers slowly so that we can avoid overloading these circuits and having them trip right back off. You can help us. Turn off your devices and appliances. Unplug things. Because if all of this energy consuming equipment, devices are plugged in and we energize the circuit, there's a surge. And that creates problems for us. It's a term called cold load pickup. These loads have been out, places are cold. We're also having issues with our infrastructure. Our assets, our substation breakers, have been cold too. They're exposed to the elements. Heat strips that normally would keep parts warm to assist with operation have been without power. Structures that are exposed to the elements have had ice form on them. Our crews are having to manually go through these circuits out in the elements, address these issues, go up in bucket trucks and knock ice off of switches and other devices in order to restore your service. These outages are statewide. They've affected customers across the state and across our service territory. There's not one area of our service territory that has been more impacted than others. So while these outages have affected circuits across the entire system, there are circuits that have critical load, as I discussed yesterday. Things like hospitals, fire stations, service centers like control centers, 911 operations, and the such. These loads are excluded for now from power outages. As demand increases and the potential for the supply to not be there, we may get to the stage where we're tapping into additional circuits. As the mayor said, the situation is critical, and we need your help. We are working hard to support our customers, and we are so frustrated by this entire situation, and the team is working tirelessly around the clock to meet your needs. Thank you for coming together. Thank you for supporting your neighbors. Together we will get through this. We understand the great hardship that this is creating for you, and we look forward to resolving this situation as the weather clears and the ERCOT system stabilizes. Thank you, Mayor.
And now City Manager Spencer Cronk.
Thank you, and I know that it seems like every time we're in front of you, we talk about how unprecedented a situation is. But yet, this again is another unprecedented situation, and I am once again confident that we will get through this if we do it together. But we want to be clear with you, this situation could last longer than today and tonight, and it is critical to prepare and make decisions now. Now, I've lived most of my life in the north and have seen plenty of snow and ice storms, but this is different. Not only because this is so unusual for us here in Texas, but from the additional impacts from our energy resources and the ongoing pandemic. I'm sorry that this is happening. Our Austin community is strong and resilient, and I know we will get through this, but right now we need to focus and work together to protect our most vulnerable. I'm going to take time now to provide a list of resources and safety tips as we all continue managing through this event. First, the City of Austin, along with other agencies, have opened up additional shelters. Palmer Event Center remains our primary warning center. Thanks to Austin Independent School District, we were able to open additional facilities, but have limited capacity. These sites are intended for our most vulnerable populations, especially those who have medical devices that need power to operate. Individuals can report directly to these facilities at Palmer Event Center at 900 Barton Springs Road, Mendez Middle School at 5106 Village Square Drive, and Northeast Early College High School at 7104 Berkman Drive. The Austin Police Department is helping Cap Metro with transportation by providing free rides to cold weather shelters. As call loads allow, APD officers will assist with providing the community rides to cold weather shelters staged around Austin. These free rides are available through Cap Metro with the assistance of Austin police officers and support personnel. Please call 311 if you need transportation to a shelter. Again, if you must leave to seek shelter, then do so safely. Take your time, keep your family, friends, and neighbors informed of your circumstances. To make sure that you arrive safely, be sure to dress in layers, bring extra blankets, phone chargers, water, and snacks. But if you choose to stay at home and do not have power, keep these things in mind. Do not use gas stoves and ovens to heat your home. Be aware of carbon monoxide. As Jackie said, disconnect appliances and electronics to avoid damage from electrical surges. Have alternative plans for refrigerating medicines or using power-dependent medical devices. Protect your property and prevent damage or uncontrolled water loss due to frozen or broken water pipes. For people seeking information about transit options, our partner Capital Metro will host a press conference immediately following this one to give an update on their services. You can join their press conference on Facebook Live at facebook.com/Capital Metro. We want to thank them for their continued support in emergency operations. Collectively, we want to thank all of our employees, partners, and first responders for the thankless job that they do daily, keeping our community safe. Most importantly, we want to thank you, our community. Many of you are taking in friends and neighbors, donating money, offering your time. I know we can't ask you to be more patient, but we can say thank you for the patience you've extended to us and the help that you've offered other Austinites. We will continue monitoring the situation continuously and will provide key updates along the way. And with that, I'll pass it back to Matt.
Thank you very much. Now I'll hand it off to our poll reporter, Heather Osborne from the Austin American Statesman, to ask questions on behalf of the media.
Good afternoon, and thank you all for answering our questions today. The first question is from the Austin Chronicle. On a call with state lawmakers, ERCOT officials said they knew this disaster was coming last week. When was Austin Energy informed, and what steps were taken to mitigate power disruption?
Austin Energy was monitoring this weather event from the start and throughout. Last week, we started with outages in areas of our service territory that were the result of storms that occurred, delivering freezing rain and ice that covered vegetation and our lines, our equipment, and brought that vegetation down and made contact, or it broke poles and wires. And we were focused on getting our customers restored. at the same time looking at this weather event. And as ERCOT was sharing information, we were preparing as well. We have plans in place where we have identified the circuits that we have available that do not have critical load on them to be part of a ERCOT-directed load shedding event, so that we were prepared to assist ERCOT in maintaining stability of the grid and meeting our obligations as directed by them to do so. In addition to that, we have power generating facilities. This fall, in our maintenance, we went through and we weatherized and we checked the equipment and the measures that we have taken, such as wrapping lines with heat tracing and those circuits, to make sure that they were all available and would be ready in a storm event. This event is unprecedented for Texas. In the past, when we had an issue in 2011, it blew through. It did not cover the entire ERCOT footprint. This storm has come in. The sustained low temperatures have been ongoing, and the forecast is for additional weather to move through. We have done and taken the steps necessary to make sure that we can follow the instructions of ERCOT, make sure that we're supporting the stability of the grid, because as I mentioned earlier, if the grid were to collapse, if the demand would continue to go up, the generating capacity or supply continue to come down, there would be a point when the whole system would go black. That would take not just days to restore power, but weeks and even longer for some customers throughout the ERCOT footprint. That's what we work together with ERCOT to prevent. So we did take steps. We have been managing our system. There are certain things like weather that are out of our control, and our teams have worked tirelessly. Our crews have been there. Our people in our control centers, our people at our power plants, our call handling people have all been working together around the clock to try to do everything we can to restore power to our customers.
Okay, the next question is from Reporte Austin. Do the warming centers provide basic items for families like food, water, baby food, diapers, etc.? Do they have Spanish-speaking translators?
I'll start out, and then maybe Spencer could follow up. So the Mayor Adler and I last night went to Palmer Event Center to see the operation there. And to answer your question, yes, in general, you walk in, you're greeted by people that check you in. There are Spanish speakers there as well that can help check you in. There is a large area of cots, and then there's a sort of secondary area where people with families or small children can be in kind of a slightly separated, more quiet area. And then there is food as well. And there, from what it looked like last night when we went to see it, there was sufficient food for people to be in the shelter for the next few days. As far as your specific question about baby supplies, I do not know the answer to that, and maybe see if the mayor or Spencer would know the answer to that one.
I think the short answer is we can provide the cots, the food, the water, the power, the basic necessities. We can make sure that those are available for everyone. But we do ask, if you are coming, to bring what you need as well, because we're all in this together. We're going to provide what we have and what we can. But again, as I mentioned before, if you're planning to come to one of these shelters, also bring what you can provide as well.
The next question is from the Austin American Statesman. Austin Energy is reaching out to customers who are medically vulnerable. How many of them has Austin Energy failed to make contact with?
Our customers who fall into that category of medically vulnerable register with us. So the customers that we have that are on that registry are ones that we have contact information for. If customers are not registered, if they don't sign up for that, we don't know that they have those situations. So we have plans. There is a backup phone number. So if we reach out to those customers and we can't reach them, there's an alternate phone number that we're able to reach out to. We know where those customers are. We know if they've been impacted by these outages. And if so, all of them have been reached out to.
The next question is from KXAN News. How do homeowners know if their power is out due to rolling outages or due to down power lines and other infrastructure problems?
So currently, circuits are out that are down and have been taken out intentionally to respond to ERCOT. Within those circuits, there may be areas that have had damage from storms, from the tree branches, from other impacts. So if the circuits are de-energized and no current's flowing, we don't know if there is damage on the circuit. So as we try to energize those circuits, they may trip back out, and that's why we have people in the field to patrol them. If that's the case, the crews are ready and in standby mode to take care of those issues as quickly as possible to restore power. There is not a way to tell for sure if circuits are impacted by both of these events, and it becomes part of the restoration process that we do. But please know that we're staging and having people patrolling lines, and if we are finding vegetation or such things that are visible, not everything is accessible or visible to us easily, then the crews are making those repairs as we're waiting for the opportunity to restore lines. So we're not sitting there just waiting for the ability to turn those circuits back on. We're working together and jointly so that when we can turn the circuits back on, we can remove those instances.
The next question is from Fox 7 Austin. How did we get here? Is this a wind turbine or natural gas issue?
This is a confluence of a number of different issues. When ERCOT does planning for the system and they release their study reports, they look at, is there a extreme event? Is there a normal event? Is there a mild event? And do we have the resources across the ERCOT footprint to serve the needs of the customers? They did those studies. They were satisfied with the reserve margin, and we went into this winter prepared to keep the lights on. This storm came in. This storm is widespread. It ranges all the way from Canada down to the coast, and there are other systems that are being impacted. So in addition to ERCOT, SPP has been impacted, and there are other areas in this footprint that are having issues and asking for significant conservation measures from their customers. but it has come in and it has stayed here. It has caused issues with wind turbines, icing, and they can't generate. It's covered solar panels with snow. It's caused icing and cold weather, extreme cold weather, to generating infrastructure that's not used to operating in those environments for long periods of time, causing them to break or to freeze up. Gas supply, natural gas supply has been impacted. And there are constraints on the natural gas transportation infrastructure as well. All of these things came together. All of these things came together, and customers were calling for more and more energy supply to heat their homes, to work from home, for businesses and such, which raised the demand higher than what was anticipated, higher than what ERCOT's planning had indicated in their studies that they had done in preparation for the winter. So when the generation was no longer able to generate, when the constraints on the generation curtailed it, and the load started to go up, there's a band that has to be maintained, because if the load becomes more than the generation, the system will collapse. And that's how we got to this situation. The generating capacity came down, the load requirement or demand from customers went up, and we're trying to maintain this margin to not cross that line and go into a total system blackout.
The next question is from, go ahead, Judge Brown.
Sorry, having some trouble with the mute there. But I think it's a good question also to reflect on how do we not end up here again. And I think obviously there's serious problems at a statewide level of amount of energy in crises, whether, right now it's a cold emergency, but this has happened when in the summertime too, just to various degrees. So I think we need to look at what will make this not happen again. And from a personal perspective, and other people who I know who have been without power for equal times to what I've been, 30 hours, 36 hours, something like that. I think 38 hours now. It's extremely frustrating, and it seems ridiculous that we could be here and that there are people that have to sit in their homes, that for this period of time. And obviously, we are encouraging people to go to a warming center if they need to get a hotel, and hopefully the hotel will not charge exorbitant prices, and if they do, to please report it. But overall, it's extraordinarily frustrating and just ridiculous that people are having to sit in their homes for this period of time without power. And so I think we want to make sure to look at ways that we can work on a system to where we can do rolling blackouts, so where it's not, certain parts of the population in Austin, including where I live in Hyde Park, that are without, or South Austin or wherever it is that you live, that are without energy for 38 hours, and instead trying to figure out ways that we can maybe modernize the system here in Austin to deal with the failures of ERCOT, but to modernize the system to where we are able to do rolling blackouts and not put all of the burden on some part of the population. Honestly, to me, that's the most frustrating part of all of this. But getting through it is what we need to focus on now, and that means following the advice of Austin Energy and reducing your consumption. If you do have power, try to pretend like you don't have power in some ways, and keep that heater temperature as low as possible and turn your lights off as much as possible. Thanks.
Okay, the next question is from Community Impact Newspaper. Could you provide an update on the city's ongoing work to make roads passable? When do you expect road conditions to improve, and what is the city doing to make travel conditions better?
I'll start, and certainly this is a collaboration with many of our partners, but we are having our crews work nonstop from our transportation and public works department to put down sand and make sure that they are getting rid of as much as we can during the day when the snow has melted the most. I will just note that it is going to get worse tonight. We know that the forecast is predicting freezing rain from 1/10 of an inch to 1/4 of an inch. And so even the work that we've done to date and prepping for this event tonight, it will be very slick in the morning. And so we can't urge enough for people to not leave home unless they need to or it's absolutely necessary. It's really critical that you stay off the roads because it will be so slick tomorrow. But with our transportation, public works, and our partners at TxDOT, we are all doing everything we can to make sure our roads are safe and passable going forward. I will generally say, even though it's going to warm up on Thursday, potentially above freezing as currently the prediction, we won't likely see this snow melt until the weekend. And so again, for the next several days, the road conditions will be very challenging.
Yeah, I just want to add on to that the collaboration at the Emergency Operations Center between the city and the county on doing everything possible to improve the roads is wonderful. There's a woman named Molly who's running that department for the city that every time that somebody has come, for example, with a need to get a natural gas or a propane gas truck to a community or to de-ice ways to get into hospitals, you know, she and her department have absolutely done everything that they can to make that happen to keep this community safe. And so I've just been really impressed with the collaboration between the city and the county at doing everything that we can in a city where we don't normally have this sort of thing. We don't have quite the infrastructure that, you know, Denver, Colorado might have for snow, but with what we have, I think the city and the county have been doing really good collaboration and trying to get to the most urgent areas as needed very well.
And I would just conclude with reminding people what was said earlier. If you're going to travel, try to do it before the sun goes down because it gets more dangerous when it gets dark. We're not used to driving in these conditions here. If you are out, drive slowly. Probably the most important thing you could do is just go real slow.
The next question is from Univision. What are your recommendations for people who have COVID-19 that are without electricity and can't afford a high hotel bill?
That is a perfect situation to call 311, get transportation to one of our isolation facilities. And so they would not be going to a center that we've described for the general population, but we do have resources for our community that are either COVID positive or experiencing symptoms, and we do have capacity there. So absolutely make sure that that is available, and calling 311 is your first stop on doing so.
All advice we give would apply here too. If you have COVID, please make sure that you minimize your contact around other people. Wear your mask. Try the best you possibly can to isolate. One of the elements of this perfect storm is not only the loss of power, not only the weather, but it's happening in the middle of COVID. We're watching numbers that are going down in our community, which when this thaws is going to give us greater ability to keep schools open and to reopen businesses. We can't lose sight of the fact that we're in the middle of a pandemic here. So we urge everybody, if you're not feeling well, try not to be around other people.
Sí, y para Univision, si tiene COVID-19 o tiene síntomas de COVID-19 y necesita un lugar caliente o con calor, con calefacción para estar esta noche, llame 311 si estás dentro de la ciudad y como dijo Spencer Cronk, si hay lugares donde se puede quedar aunque tiene COVID-19, que la ciudad de Austin tiene lugares especialmente para personas que son positivas con COVID-19. Gracias.
The next question is from CBS Austin. Austin Energy issued a statement saying they were working with the Building Owners and Managers Association and the Downtown Austin Alliance to curtail power use downtown since the area is currently excluded from load shedding. What specific definitive actions have been taken to conserve energy in downtown?
So reaching out to our partners downtown, they are looking at reducing their consumption by turning off lights, by using only that electricity that is necessary for their operations. We had a reach out to the chamber, to the Downtown Austin Alliance, and also with the building owners, and asking them to work with the buildings downtown to provide us with conservation efforts, lowering thermostats, covering windows, doing everything that they can to use as little electricity as possible. And I appreciate the support of those associations, and I appreciate the partnerships that we have as we try to work through this together.
Those associations that were mentioned have all reached out to their membership as well. Downtown Austin Alliance, the Chamber, that's the Greater Austin Chamber, but also some of the community chambers, the Hispanic Chamber, I understand, is doing that as well. So